This is Ben Davison. Subscribe to Stephen Icon.
Alright, so this is a bit of an update to yesterday's news. Of course, I did the video on it. If you haven't seen it, where I do go into more depth about it, that will pop up at the end of this video. So you don't have to go searching for it. Just wait until the end of this video and it will pop up. Just give it a click and then you'll be fully up to speed with everything, okay? Make sure you are subscribed while you're there, if of course you're not already. Now, in a nutshell, what's happened is there's been numerous online reports that Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder Part 3 has now been cancelled because they went past the expiration date of their contract. So the deadline for their contract, when they're supposed to have announced a fight and get the fight on, has either expired or is due to expire. And it doesn't look like they're going to get this fight done anytime soon. Now, Team Wilder, of course, apparently they have denied this one. Okay, it is what it is. But following what Frank Warren was saying yesterday after his BT Sports show, which, by the way, was a very good show, he was asked this question: is it true that Fury Wilder is now cancelled? Well, he says that he spoke to Tyson Fury, and Tyson Fury said, in a nutshell, really, had enough. I feel like I'm in limbo. I want to get out. I want to fight. Knock Wilder on the head. In other words, by knocking him on the head means push him to the side, not interested anymore. Okay. Frank Warren then followed up with, so we're going to get Tyson Fury out in December against whomever it may be. But as a side note, it has to be somebody in the top 15 of the WBC. And then they want to move into 2021 with back-to-back fights with Anthony Joshua. So what this means is Wilder is now out of the picture as far as Tyson Fury is concerned. Okay. Now, a couple of ways of looking at this one. For me, I think first and foremost, Fury wouldn't say this if it meant he was in breach of the contract, and or there's a real possibility he could be stripped of the WBC World Heavyweight title. So there has to be some validity to this with all the online sources, regardless of the fact Team Wilder have denied this one, but unless, of course, Fury gives Wilder a voluntary defense. Maybe they could work something out, who knows. But for all intents and purposes right now, that's the plan. Fury will be out in December, most likely here in the UK, against a top 15 WBC rated opponent, and then move into 2021 back-to-back fights with Anthony Joshua. Okay. Now, whose fault is this one? I discussed this in yesterday's video as well, which is, could it be that Team Fury, because they were so adamant, as in Bob Arum in particular, was so adamant that there has to be a crowd for this particular fight. If there's no crowd, there will be no fight. If that's the case, the people who will oversee this contract could look at this whole situation and go, well, Team Wilder, Team Fury, of course you want a crowd that's going to generate more money, we understand that, but at the end of the day, we've already given you an extension because the original was meant to be for July, was it not? These guys were meant to be fought in July, but because of the whole pandemic, we've extended it even further for you by another 6-7 months. So therefore, boxing has been back, fights have been happening behind closed doors. There's no reason why you two couldn't fight behind closed doors. So really, there is no excuse as to why this fight couldn't have happened. Sure, you're not going to make as much money, but that's your problem. That's not our problem. We're not honouring this contract anymore. Okay? So that's a scenario that could play out. But of course, there could be the other one as well. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, I don't watch the Wilder fanatical channels at all, but I'm pretty sure that they could come out with the whole, well, Tyson Fury, he's ducking Deontay Wilder, he deliberately stalled it, blah, 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 he should be stripped of the WBC World Heavyweight title. That's the narrative that they're probably going to go down, knowing full well what it is that they're like, okay? But first and foremost, we don't know what the reasons are. Maybe they're right. Maybe Fury did stall it. We don't know. I don't believe so. I believe that they have been speaking with PBC and Team Wilder all along, and I do feel that Team Wilder haven't quite been as forthcoming as what they want. Personally, I think that Team Wilder, because of all the excuses, because of all this and the other, they have deliberately stalled it because they didn't really want the fight. But what they don't want to do is come out and say, we're not taking the fight, we don't want the fight, we don't want another beating like we took in the second fight. So it's better to stall it. Oh, well, the contract's expired, nothing we can do. Well, the fight's cancelled, it's not our fault, we didn't pull out of it. I'm not scared. They could come out of it. But as far as if anybody out there thinking that Tyson Fury will get stripped of the WBC, I'm not too sure that would happen. But if it did happen, all the Wilder fanatical people out there, don't think for 1 second that Wilder will pick up that belt. Because it won't happen. Do you know why it won't happen? because there's an interim world heavyweight champion out there. And that is the rule. If the champion, for whatever reason it may be, it doesn't matter what the reason is, if he gets stripped or vacates the WBC title, the interim champion is then elevated to full champion. That's how it will be. And the current interim world heavyweight champion right now is Alexander Povetkin. So Povetkin, if he did get this vacant belt, would then defend that against Dillian Whyte. And know that fight, or at least as far as I'm aware, that fight, the plug cannot be pulled on that one, as in Wilder versus Povetkin. It can't happen because Povetkin, Whyte, have a legal obligation to fight each other. They've already signed. So potentially, WBC, they could order Wilder take on the winner of Povetkin and Whyte for the WBC World Heavyweight title, if that scenario played out. But that's how it will be. So any Wilder fans out there jumping up and down, hoping that Fury's going to get stripped and blah, blah, blah. Well, if he does, Wilder ain't getting the belt. At least not yet. Okay? So there's that one. Now, for me, I do believe that Team Fury did try and get this fight on. Honestly, I do. I believe that Team Wilder, they wanted this fight. I'm not too sure about Wilder because he did take a hell of a beating. But as far as the expiration date of the contract, well, it is what it is. As I said before, they could have fought already. They didn't need a crowd. The crowd is all about topping up the bank balance. That's all that is. Other fights out there have been happening without crowds. So why couldn't this one? Okay, we can look at that one. But for me, the scenario that will play out now is Fury. I don't think that he will be stripped of the WBC belt, by the way. But he will defend that against a top 15 in the WBC, whomever it may be. I think that he will take a lesser risk fight to almost ensure of the Anthony Joshua fight. So Fury, he will take on a top 15. Joshua, he will fight Kubrat Pulev on December the 12th. Then move into spring of next year. Fury versus Joshua, for undisputed or not undisputed. But I think that those two particular fights will happen between Joshua and Fury in 2021. What this means is Wilder's out the picture. And going by Frank Warren, what he says after the show yesterday, with Tyson Fury saying, knock Wilder on the head now. Let's get a fight. Let's get on in December. Then we move into the Joshua fight. That tells me Fury Wilder Part 3 is not happening, at least not in the short term. In the long term, who knows? I'm sure if Fury has still got the belts and whatever, or the belt, at some point, he will defend it against Wilder as a voluntary. Is he willing to get back into contention? We don't know. We'll really have to wait and see. But by the looks of it, it will be a case of if Fury does fight somebody else in December, then does fight back-to-back fights against Joshua, Wilder will be out the picture. Because as I said, there's an interim champion out there. Correct? Anyway, that's my thoughts. You drop me yours. Click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you all in the next video.